This is KGW News at Sunrise.
I declare the 2024 regular session 82nd Legislative Assembly is adjourned. Sine die.
And with that, the Oregon legislative session has wrapped up 3 days early. Despite that, lawmakers addressed some major concerns in the state. Coming up on Sunrise, we'll be breaking down some of the biggest changes made during this short session.
Also this morning, a closer look at the fiery speech last night from the president as we fact-check some of the claims that President Biden made during his State of the Union address. Comments that covered everything from inflation to immigration and the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol 3 years ago. Plus,
instead of just staying home alone, they coming in and socializing.
You just heard from someone who's called a food ambassador for the Oregon Food Bank. Coming up at 5:15, what these food ambassadors do and how they're helping people in their community.
I also feel like when this day arrives, we need to proclaim it loudly at the very beginning of the show. Today is Friday.
Friday! I missed the hand gesture.
Friday edition of the Sunrise Show. Okay. Chris will have your traffic for you in a second. But first, Rod, weekend weather forecast.
By the way, I did the first ceremonial mowing of the yard, first of the upcoming spring season yesterday.
You did, not Grandpa Kim.
No, I did.
Good clarification, Christine.
Literally that high.
Really?
I mean, yeah, it was nuts.
Saw that rain.
So, yes. It wasn't as mucky out there as I was expecting, though. I got the lawnmower through it. Well, if you have plans to be outdoors today, you will find dry weather once again. Radar's been showing the rain nipping up around Long Beach and into Astoria, but I just checked the observations, and this is radar hitting the rain up high, and it's not reaching the ground. Not even a trace of rain reported yet in Astoria or up into Long Beach. And you folks are expected to remain mainly dry until tonight. Now, there's a chance you could get a little something at some point. But other than that, the forecast is all dry, and we are cold again. 30 up in Battleground, 30 down in Sherwood, so look for some frost out there. Skies are being reported as partly cloudy generally across the entire area. 31 out in Dallas. Your day moving forward, partly sunny to increasing clouds at times. 49 at noon, 56 at 5 p.m. Yesterday, the high was 52. We will be at least warmer today, maybe up to 58. Here's Chris.
Well, that'll feel good. All right, let's get you back to the roads. Quick look at I-5. This is the Greeley exit ramp, and actually, as I passed by this on my way in this morning, it was closed from what looked like a pretty bad overnight crash. That ramp has reopened, so we're good to go on that side of town. Taking you out to the Sylvan Hill, that looks pretty good as well. Very light traffic volume out there, so I want to let you know about this. This weekend, 217 closes both directions near the Hall Boulevard overpass as they get continuation on the 217 auxiliary lanes project. Again, that closure is from 11 p.m. tomorrow until 8 a.m. Sunday. There will be another full weekend closure next weekend. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, guys.
All right, thank you, Chris. All right, let's get to our top story this half hour. Last night's fiery speech from President Biden. During his annual State of the Union address, the president laid out his goals for the rest of this year and what he aims to do if he lands a second term in office. China Green is with us here in studio this morning for a fact-checking segment on the president's speech. Good morning there, China.
Good morning. So last night, President Biden talked about very hot-button topics like immigration and the state of the economy. Our verified team was tracking the claims Biden made during his address. Take a look.
President Biden just gave his third State of the Union address. He boasted about a strong economy and repeatedly warned about threats to democracy. The Verified team was watching closely to fact-check the claims in his speech, as well as in the Republican rebuttal from Senator Katie Britt. First, on the economy.
Inflation has dropped from 9% to 3%, the lowest in the world.
It's true that inflation peaked at 9% in June of 2022 and has since fallen to 3%. That is lower than in much of the world. For instance, in the UK, inflation remains above 4%. But his claim that it's the lowest in the world is false. Several countries have lower inflation rates. For example, Canada's is below 3%. Biden also talked about the domestic threat to democracy posed by the January 6th attacks and the foreign threat posed by Russia and Vladimir Putin. In both cases, the president took aim at former President Donald Trump.
Former Republican president tells Putin, quote, "Do whatever the hell you want."
That's true. Last month, in a campaign rally, Trump claimed that when he was president, the leader of a NATO member country asked him what he would do if that country didn't fulfill its financial obligations to the alliance. Trump said that he told this leader not only would the U.S. not protect such a country from Russian attack, but that he would encourage the Russians to, quote,
do whatever the hell they want.
The Republican rebuttal largely focused on the issue of immigration. Alabama Senator Katie Britt accused Biden of facilitating a crisis at the border.
Minutes after taking office, he suspended all deportations.
On the day he was inaugurated, Biden's acting Secretary of Homeland Security issued a memo ordering a broad review of immigration enforcement policy. It included a 100-day pause on certain deportations. But Britt's claim that all deportations were suspended is misleading. The memo specifically outlined several exceptions, including for threats to national security. For more fact-checking of the claims from the president's address and the Republican rebuttal, go to verifythis.com. With your Verify, I'm Casey Decker.
And coming up in our next half hour of Sunrise, we get into local politicians' reactions to Biden's State of the Union address. Christine?
Okay, thank you for that report, China. To Oregon politics now. The legislative session wrapped up last night, 3 days early. Devin Haskins is live in our newsroom this morning with a look at what lawmakers passed and passed on. Good morning, Devin.
Yeah, good morning. So 35 days is all lawmakers had to get bills introduced and passed. And those bills range from recriminalizing drugs to addressing concerns over artificial intelligence. It was a busy, short session with multiple bills now heading to the governor's desk. Probably one of the biggest bills headed to her desk is House Bill 4002, which rolls back some of Measure 110. The bill would partially recriminalize possession of small amounts of hard drugs. It also lets individual counties choose whether they want to prosecute users or send them to treatment. Governor Kotek says she intends to sign it within the next 30 days, and then it would take effect September 1st. Majority leaders said the two sides worked together this session to find solutions and hope to see more of that.
There wasn't a lot of elbowing around. There was just authentic engagement with people to actually talk about how do we drive towards solution. And that's what I'm really proud about this session. And I'm hoping that this leads to more authentic engagement like this when we're addressing the big thorny problems that are facing Oregonians going forward.
So other notable bills that passed, a bill which makes drug use on public transportation a high-level misdemeanor with up to a year in jail, and two bills that regulate artificial intelligence. Now to a couple of bills that did not pass. One being the standard time bill. You know, that one that would have kept Oregon on standard time and not make that biannual switch of the clocks? Well, it passed the Senate earlier this week, but died once it reached the House. And a bill that would ban book bans in schools also died on the last day. We have more on the short session ending on our website at kgw.com. Drew?
All right, Devin Haskins live in our newsroom this morning. Of course, we also have a big race to cover here in Portland this year with the run for mayor well underway at this point. Three of the top candidates are currently serving on city council. So this week, KGW's Blair Best sat down with one of them, City Commissioner Mingus Mapps, specifically asking how he plans to handle the city's homeless crisis if he is elected mayor. One of his big plans, he said, is to have Multnomah County take over much of the city's homeless shelters. And he also made a big pledge to cut the number of people living in tents in the city in half during his first term.
So under your leadership, if elected, will people still be sleeping on the sidewalks?
We're going to see every year, we're going to see fewer and fewer people sleeping on the sidewalks. You know, this problem has exploded over the last several years. The metric I'm committed to holding myself accountable to is seeing the absolute number of people who are sleeping on our sidewalks decrease over time. I'd like to see it shrink by at least half in our first 4 years. And I know a lot of people will be skeptical of that. I will tell you that's actually achievable. But in order to achieve that,
of course, that was just part of their conversation. You can watch Blair's full interview with Mingus Mapps tonight on KGW News at 5 and on The Story at 6:30. We're also going to interview the other candidates for mayor, so look for those with Blair coming here in the next few weeks.
Okay, let's head to an area north of Seattle. We're talking about Mount Vernon. You can see here in this video a cold winter with some late season snow. That video posted by the Rosengard Tulip Festival, which features spring blooms. And they were saying just as the daffodils were starting to bloom, last week is when they got snowed on. Fortunately, Rosengard says the blooms are resilient and they're powering through.
Last week was February. What do you expect us now?
So I guess, is it a story that they bloom that early? I really don't know the story behind daffodils. Did they normally bloom in February? Why am I asking you? My next question.
Here, I will tell you here locally.
Yes.
This is totally based on my dog walks through my neighborhood.
Okay.
more than not, you see them come up in February.
Okay.
Now, there are some years where that's delayed, but more than not, you see them. And the crocuses come up there, they're early.
So they have to be a resilient flower then.
Yeah,
they must
very
be strong.
resilient. Yes, very, very resilient they are. Let me get to the weather map. By the way, we talked yesterday, if you missed it, that while our snowpack on average here in Oregon is above normal for this time of the year, when you get up into Washington, because the storms have been coming largely out of California this year, so our moisture has been coming up from the south, there's been less by the time that moisture reaches Washington, and the snowpack along especially the northern Washington Cascades in some cases is down to about 50% of normal. So we're in better shape overall than our neighbors up to the north. All right, I have one advisory for the weekend weather systems coming in. It's this one. This basically points out gusty winds starting this evening through 3 o'clock tomorrow. In the afternoon on Saturday. Southeast winds gusting to 55 miles per hour up into the foothills, going up into the Blues, and then coming out of the Blues back down to La Grande, travel along I-84. That's it. No other watchers or warnings posted, and really none are expected. This upcoming weekend event, there's a system coming in tomorrow. There's 3 total fronts between tomorrow morning and Tuesday. For the weekend, just tomorrow and Sunday, we're looking for maybe up to about a foot of snow around Mount Hood. Snow levels over the weekend no lower than 2,500 feet. So for travel, it's going to be all rain through the gorge. It will be all rain over the Coast Range highways as well. Here's our weather system out in the Pacific. Radar showing some rain in Astoria, but no, that's the radar beam hitting rain that's not quite making it down to the ground. I just checked your observation. Nothing being reported at the surface. We have 41 in Astoria, warmer because of the cloud cover that we just saw. 37 in Kelso, 40 up into Seattle. Again, cloudiness that direction right now. You get down into Salem, it's been mainly clear overnight and it's 31. And then we still have cold temperatures out east, 20 in Baker City, 13 degrees out in Burns. Here's the way Futurecast shows it. Today is dry, and take advantage, the final dry day until we get into maybe Wednesday afternoon of next week. So some rain starts tomorrow, rain at times through at least Tuesday. So partly cloudy, kind of increasing cloudiness around the area today. The thicker clouds might reach the coast. I'm not sure if you folks get much sun or if your clouds back off a little bit. Here's the first wave of rain coming into Portland, Salem, and Longview at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's not steady rain, but occasional shots of rain or numerous showers coming through both tomorrow and then Sunday. Here we are Saturday night. Pretty good wave of rain comes in. There's a snow over the Cascades. And then we've got rain at times or numerous showers coming through the area during the day on Sunday. How much rain are we talking about? Just for the weekend, could be 1.5 inches on average at the coast. And on average, maybe around 1/2 inch here in Portland. Here's your 7-day. 58 today. That'll be about normal for this time of the year, by the way. And then rain at times and temps around 50 degrees all the way into Tuesday. Thursday kicks off that stretch that people have been talking about. Warm, sunny weather.
Everyone's talking about
Thursday shows up right now at 64. Friday would be warmer. Oh, that hurt.
I was going to say, did you stretch before the show?
No, I didn't.
Question for you, stretchers.
Yes.
I know you're familiar with the Oregon Food Bank.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of the Oregon Food Bank Food Ambassadors?
I have not, no.
Next story here on Sunrise. All about it, Rod, because of course this is the month of our KGW Great Food Drive, where we work closely with the Oregon Food Bank to address the state's hunger issues. And next up, we are going to talk about food ambassadors, who they are and what they do to help address the hunger issue. Next on our show.